MMOs are something that I've always had such an obsession with growing up. Something that I still carry now, even as an overgrown college student. I still remember 2019, when I first saw Fantasy Star Online 2. I had a shitty laptop that couldn't really play anything, but I still tried. The mixture of having an interesting world, beautiful music, hard bosses and compelling combat, all while doing it with a group of people, friends or not, was the itch that 14-year-old me had really wanted scratching. It's something that I still yearn for now. The itch never really left me, because even though I played the game, fought through understanding private servers and English patches, read all sorts of guides on how to play at 12 and grinded to level 100, PSO2 wasn't really the MMO of my dreams. For me, even though I liked the graphics, I wanted something that wasn't hub-based. Even though the music was good, it didn't always hit for me the way I needed it to. The bosses, those were good. Honestly, kind of perfect. Same with the combat too. I can talk about hours for how much I loved it, but at the end of the day, bosses and combat just weren't enough for me to immerse myself 100%. I didn't feel the connection, I needed all 4 keys, and something else I didn't really think would be so important for MMO, but honestly now was invaluable to me. Final Fantasy XIV is an MMO that in some ways felt like was handcrafted by the gods for my taste buds. I was 15 and I had never really experienced anything like it before. It was my first true MMO that I ever played long term, and I just fell in love, with the world of Eorzea and everything surrounding it. The background context of a game that had failed so horribly that they had to redo it was so fascinating to me. Because at that point in time, I wanted to be a game dev, so it really hit me on a deeper level. Playing through those early zones for the first time, you can kind of feel how badly the devs wanted to make things right. Even though I didn't get to experience 1.0, I understood what it meant. I spent hours watching videos on dev history, on the bus to school, during lunch, even when I was supposed to be doing my homework. The past, present, and the future of this game latched onto me like an obsession. Even now, after growing up with the game and watching it grow with me too, I still wish I started earlier. I wish I was there to cry about 1.0, be ecstatic about 2.0, gush about Heaven's Word, because it's something that I just won't ever really experience, I was simply just too young and too uninformed for that era. However, it didn't stop me from having a level of immersion that only a few games made me have. It's a feeling. It's like a condition that I have that makes it hard for me to like some games, but makes it way too easy to love others. I know, this is called the preference, right? But when I'm crying at the end credits and my worldview's forever changed, it doesn't feel right to call it just a preference anymore. It became more. And for 4 times, 4 expansions, my worldview changed forever. And maybe for the better too. From the little kid that gave this game a chance, to the jaded but grateful person I see myself as now, this game has changed with me as well. And maybe it's because I'm older and I truly know what I want now, but FF14 just doesn't hit the way it used to. It's like seeing an old friend. You still talk and catch up about those good old days, but there's just not enough substance and a need to grow past those silly conversations. And eventually, it becomes clear the both of you need to move on. And it doesn't make you bitter that you know this, it just makes you sad, because you still wanted that connection. I know, this is really deep, especially for an MMO, but I think it's because Yoshi P and friends really succeeded in creating a world and a story that if you're open to it, you can carry in your heart for as long as you need it to be there. But to put it into better words for what I liked about this game and how it ended up being the wrong match, we'll start with something simple. It's really easy for me to say, I don't know, it just felt right. But I'm going to try my best to explain from the beginning. Starting with the setting of Eorzea. What I liked about it most was the progression. You started out as a little sprout, entering the first city state, which for me was Oda. Just going out, questing for the first time, seeing this generic fantasy desert village, slightly depressing in tone, but oddly calming too. Was honestly really boring though, but something about it held my attention. Maybe it was the thought of returning to a zone like this, 60 levels later, stronger, with more things to do, more bosses to fight, more players to talk to. That expectation was what kept me going through the slog, really, because yeah, it was a slog. The combat was simple, almost too simple. It didn't allow the enemies to have any form of design other than cone attack, circular AoEs, single target hits. It wasn't looking good for me. And as an action combat, DMC lagging Kingdom Hearts obsessed nerd, this slow, unpolished combat just wasn't doing it for me. It was boring as hell, but for some reason, maybe out of the boredom, vindication, or just the stubbornness I've always had, I kept going. I solved the issue of not really enjoying the combat by honestly just pressing more buttons for classes I didn't really enjoy, for the game that, outside the vibe, I didn't really enjoy. Even the story wasn't something I cared so much about. The voice acting wasn't that good to me, and the little bit that the game had, it just wasn't enough, you know? The Guardian Empire were the most boring villains as well. Also the Asians too. And my lizard brain had not grown to enjoy the slow burn that was 2.x. But then again, I can't tell you who really did like 2.x. But then there was a shift in the story. A questline that changed how I saw things. It made me not care about the combat and how boring it was anymore. It made me see it as just a tool, something to carry over to the next moment. And that was the Crystal Tower Alliance raids. I still remember meeting Gratier for the first time, playing a piece of the game in which I had to interact with so many damn people at the same time. To others in the instance, it might have been a normal daily, but for me, it was the start of a promise to see what this game had to say and to see it through to the end. This feeling was further increased when I experienced the ending of 2.0. Just watching Alpha No, a character I didn't really care for before, get completely blindsided, it really hit me hard. Same in Memphilia and the rest of the Scions. Watching them slowly but surely weed out one by one really hit me hard. And as we were sent off to Ishgard, a location that, based off the first part of it, never really caught my eye, it transformed from that into the start of a 4-year saga that I can honestly say now changed my life. Heaven's Word was something that really altered my whole view of the game. For something that started as a companion piece to my Netflix shows, the story itself kind of replaced that for me. My obsession grew, and this was when the game really began to click for me. My understanding of it grew so much that I was actually starting to like the combat. The zones blew up in size, and it looked so much more beautiful, albeit losing a bit of the atmosphere I once had. The dungeons that I once slog to get through were, okay, they were still pretty bad, but it was a lot better than Aurora Reborn, that's for sure. What really got to me though was the story. I finally had a connection on what was going on with it. The Dragonsong War was a tragedy. Seeing how people would lose their friends, their family, and even their own humanity to the greed and hatred and anguish of the war, it hit deep for me. And for the first time, Teenage Mutant dealt with a story that had a political sense that meant a lot for me. It compelled me to keep playing, even just to see how the Dragonsong War would end in 3.x, and also what would happen in the Warrior of Darkness arc. It honestly made Final Fantasy for me my therapy. After a long day of school, dealing with this or that issue that surrounded my life at the moment, I always knew I could sit back and continue to progress. There was always more stories to do, more dungeons to fight, and many more days finding solace in the escapism it provided me. Honestly, at this point, I thought this was as good as it was going to get, and I was okay with that. But I had no idea how much better things were going to be, and how much my love would almost turn into a really fun addiction. To me, Shadowbringers was the best and the worst thing that could have happened to this game. Everything I loved about it got 10 times better. The fantasy erupted. Stepping into for the first time, it was beautiful, unique, hopeful, and depressing all at the same time. If FF14 was a food crafted for my taste buds, Shadowbringers was the drink I used to wash it all down. The zones had reached a level where the little bit of depth that was low-key missing from Aurora Reborn had come back, and you could just feel the history as you go through each area. The story was this game's peak, and as sad as it sounds, it just never reached that level of consistency again. Because even if the future stories had higher highs, the lows were just as low. I'm talking about you too. The gameplay finally felt like he had some bones to it, and the dungeons and trials felt the most interesting it ever had. Everything felt perfect. And I could finally say that the hours of me being bored at the beginning were finally worth it. And when I finally finished the story, I had a budget to play, and it made me go deeper into the MMO craze, because I finally had a piece of content that I could just sink into for the rest of my time in this game. I honestly thought that the itch that I had for so many years had finally been scratched, but it's not that simple. It's never really that simple. I wish it was though. I wish I could go back to those days of me grinding in Boja and just be happy and glad to see where the future will take me now. But in some ways, I'm happier. I can see the game for what it was and what it tries to do. But it all came crashing down in. Okay, now I'm not saying that these two expansions are bad. Quite the opposite. Endwalker for me was honestly extremely compelling in terms of the story. And it was the first time I did Savage Raiding, and it was an amazing time. And Dawn Trail, even if the story was lacking, made up for me in terms of the content design. But what I ended up realizing for the both of them was that the illusion I had for years was broken. And I called it an illusion, not a chokehold, because I finally recognized that it's really been the same formula all the time. Even though the game had changed, some ways for the better, some ways for the worse, I think what really changed was me. At this point, I was 17, 18, and what had once felt like a chokehold on me now felt like a jumbled up mess. I could talk about everyone's issues with both of these expansions, like how Endwalker and Dawn Trail have no mid-core content, how boring the Point X stories were, and even though those things definitely were the case for me too, it honestly just felt boring. I think I grew out of it kinda, and even though I didn't really want to. For a while, I kept logging on, because I wanted more out of the game, more out of my experience, more progression, more interaction, more danger, more risk, more MMO, but it just never really came to me. At that point, I was chasing a ghost of something that, with clearer eyes that I have now, never really existed. The whole time I was playing the game with an illusion or an expectation of it eventually turning into something more, something that I could call the game of my dreams. But looking into clouded eyes, it really wasn't that. The story might have been compelling and really good, but honestly, outside of that, all the other content might have interested me, it just wasn't enough for me to hold for longer periods of times, especially like it used to. And for the first time, I took a break. I had wanted the content to blow up in size, thinking that maybe that was the fix. Maybe it just wasn't enough. And I didn't realize it at first, but what it was that I had played a huge chunk of this game with the mindset of a new player. Always progressing, always catching up. That forward momentum kind of became a fuel I used to enjoy the game. Like I was constantly running towards something, and without realizing it, I just didn't know how to exist in the game anymore. Subconsciously, I think taking a break and trying to come back was kind of my own version of me trying to recreate that feeling I had of being behind, of coming back to a game that had changed while I was gone, just so I could chase that magic again. But every time I came back, it felt more like a cycle, a loop, more so than any form of growth. The content was new and it was a lot, but it just didn't feel new. It felt like I was going back to an ex, hoping she would change, but she just proves to me again and again why we broke up in the first place. But I still couldn't stop hoping for things to get better. But someday, I just accepted it. Maybe FF14 was never really the game of my dreams. But then, what was it that I was looking for this whole time? Do you guys remember when I said I wanted to be a game dev when I was a kid? Well, there's more to it. At that point in my life, when I first started gaining access to Asian anime games, and when I first saw Genshin Impact, yeah, I know it's a gacha, not an MMO, but as a kid, seeing the graphics and the way the game looked in the trailers, it really hit for me. It was one of those first times that I got that itch, and I really felt like I was getting scratched. It made me bust down Unity, and in the middle of me poorly laying out the code, I got a little notebook and made a design doc of how I wanted my ideal indie dream game to go. I still remember it. In the document, I wanted it to have the graphics of Genshin, the MMO world of FF14, mixed with the visual design of Genshin Impact as well, the story and music of FF14, the combat of base PSO2, and the movement of some random Chinese MMO that I was obsessed with at the time. Funnily enough, this game called Brew Protocol, it ended up looking like all those things combined into one. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case because the game shut down, which was pretty disappointing. Apparently, there's a remake coming out, so maybe that'll be good. Regardless though, this and everything I've been through regarding my hopes and dreams in Final Fantasy XIV, it taught me something. No matter what, no matter how many games I play, it's probably never gonna scratch the itch I once felt like I needed to be scratched. And that's perfectly okay, because when I look outside of those lenses, I'll be able to enjoy things fully for what they are, not what I need them to be. And maybe then, I'll be surprised by a new game, and it'll be my new obsession. But till then though, I really hope Star Residence is good. That shit needs to be good.